Today I'm going to be speaking about Tommaso Buscetta and some of the things he said I believe never been made public before. After Buscetta was arrested in Brazil in October 1983, prosecuting judge Giovanni Falcone and Brooklyn federal prosecutor Charles Rose went to speak to him. And despite two of his sons and many of his relatives being killed by the Coglianese the year before, he didn't say much. According to reports, they said he hinted about cooperating, but was concerned about the safety of his remaining family. Prior to his extradition on June 28, 1984, Buscetta explains, "In 1984, I wanted to free my family from my presence, so I swallowed strychnine. What happened next, Buscetta took as divine intervention. It so happened that in the emergency room in a hospital in Brasilia, there was not the usual doctor, but a poisoning specialist who gave me injections. I was saved, but for a time, I had to bear the consequences of the cure." Giovanni Falcone described Buscetta's suicide attempt as an act of love for his wife. He wanted to stop causing her problems. As a result, for the following 45 days, Buscetta began cooperating with Falcone, and he explains the after effects of the injections that he received. "There was still some aftermaths when I began my collaboration with Judge Falcone. That is to say, I was lucid, but sometimes I wasn't 100% accurate with reference to the perception of time. As for cooperating, he had the following to say: the mafia phenomenon is not common. It is not organized crime. It's not the usual crime of which the police understand. The mafia phenomenon is something more important than crime. It is crime itself, intelligence, and more silent. It's quite a different thing. It's that hard for those who collaborate with justice to shore up their accusations with certain evidence. Mafia accusations always remain within the mafia sphere. That is silence. What I say to you, you will not tell others. So when the relationship takes place between me and the person the mafioso is addressing, there are things that must remain between me and him. That is, I won't even have to report it to my closest friends. When these things are talked about over the years, what are the things that a collaborator of justice will be able to support?" Basically, he's saying whatever he speaks about is looked at as hearsay. He continued, "He will be able to say, I know this. It's up to you to determine how far the evidence goes to speak of these things, because otherwise, no one will ever speak up for justice again, because it becomes very ridiculous. It's absurd that Tommaso Buscetta should be heard talking freely, only to be denounced tomorrow for slander. I do not want to be slandered, and I do not slander. Mine are truths. But mine, if I can prove them or not, it will be the competence of justice to ascertain whether my statements are true or not. The phenomenon mafia is not only criminal, it's a phenomenon that goes much further than the criminal one. Mafiosi don't make flyers. They don't write their comrades. The mafiosi has agreements with all sections of society. The mafioso knows how to access all levels." Most interesting, Buscetta spoke of an FBI report which stated the FBI recorded what he said to Judge Falcone, and he exposes the report for what it is. "A gross mistake was made. I have never been with the FBI. I was with the FBI in the first period up to Christmas of 1984. After that, I was taken over by the DEA and turned over to a DEA man. Even when I had to speak to Judge Falcone in the U.S. Department of Justice, I met with the DEA. So this FBI report is false." So he's saying in the beginning, the FBI was handling him, but turned him over to the DEA. And when he met with Falcone, he did so with someone from the DEA. I'll end it with him speaking about judges Giovanni Falcone and Paolo Borsellino. "I just want to say something very dear to me. For me, the death of Judge Falcone and Judge Borsellino is not the usual death of an ordinary person. For me, it was something more. Judge Falcone was the lighthouse for me of this fight against the mafia. The Italian state did not realize who Judge Falcone and Judge Borsellino were. They didn't evaluate them. They denigrated them, especially Judge Falcone. I have seen the disappointment in Judge Falcone's eyes every time I met him, but he always laughed. They accused him of being a prima donna, but he was a prima donna who worked. He was a prima donna who seriously wanted to fight the mafia. He certainly did not go home and flaunt himself in restaurants and nightclubs. He was a prima donna who lived like a convict. From what I've read and researched, Tommaso Buscetta and Judge Giovanni Falcone had developed a true friendship. They even spoke the same dialect from Palermo. That unusual friendship is unlike with some cooperators who are disillusioned into thinking that the agents are his friends. In reality, a cooperator is viewed as an orange, and the orange squeezes, the FBI and the AUSA, come in the guise of friends. But the truth of the matter is, When it comes to that orange, they have only one goal. Besides making cases, it's to squeeze every drop of juice it has. Unlike Buscetta and Falcone, there are no true friendships. There's only bloodsuckers and a piece of fruit.